Okay. All right, so going forward here, what we want to make sure that happens is that this doesn't happen again, right? So, one of the things about success, whether it's with weight loss or any type of business, is that you make some mistakes and you make an assessment of what those mistakes were that caused you to fail, so that those mistakes don't happen again. And so that's what we want to do here going forward. Now, of course, this was my first time to do this, and I made some distinctions for myself. And one of the reasons that I wanted to go through it was to find out, knowing all three of you, and bright women and who are accomplished in their lives in other ways. Why did you fail at the weight loss? So I made some distinctions there, and definitely there are some pitfalls that are out there for just anybody, myself included. So going through this, I made some distinctions for myself that probably apply to some other people. But so what we're going to do is we're going to go through, and each of us is going to tell going forward again how this is not going to happen again. Again, what distinctions that you made that may have caused you to gradually slip up, as well as you did the first time, losing all the weight, and gain some back. One of the big distinctions for me was about the water. And that's something that I've intellectually heard forever. Anytime you hear about weight loss, you hear about the prescription about drinking water. And I've heard that forever. I didn't really internalize it, though, until I did this diet. And was feeling what I thought was hunger one time, and I just drank, a liter, half liter of water, whatever, and it was gone. And so what I realized from that is that even Dr. Fit was walking around dehydrated most of the time. Right? One of the things that I noticed when I started drinking all this water, and again, as soon as I saw it happening, the light went off and I knew what it was, but my urine was a lot lighter. So that's one signal for you to know that you're moving toward dehydration if your urine is getting darker. So your urine should be clear or a very pale yellow. Right? So if it's starting to get darker than that, then again, most likely you're dehydrated.
But how long after you take that B75? Because that really turns it dark.
Oh, well, it should be 6 hours or so, after you take that. Yeah, because that will turn it fluorescent, the B vitamins. So those going through your cells. But that's a good sign that you're absorbing the B vitamins when it turns your urine that fluorescent color there. So, but yeah, do allow for that. Now, the other thing, so the water, right? That is really key. That's a much more important element than I realized. Is drinking the water. So starting to drink with water. So every meal now, I'll take a few bites and I'll drink, maybe a half liter of water, or this tea that I just found at Water Steel, and and then within a few bites, I feel full again, and that may have something to do, with this with the HCG. But you've heard of your stomach shrinking in the past, and that is virtually what happens with this, is that the stomach that you're feeding shrinks. So we talked about how most of our makeup is actually microbial. Right? On a good day, you've got 10 times more microbes in you than normal cells. They have to eat too. A lot of the nutrients, right, that we're feeding into our bodies, they go to feed those microbes. So if you have too many of those floating around, then that virtually makes you have a bigger stomach. You have more mouths to feed. One of the things that happens with this HCG protocol is that because you're not feeding them those the carbs and the sugar and that type of thing, you starve a lot of those to death, and so your microbe count comes down, and basically which makes your stomach shrink. Right? So, because really what you're feeding is not your stomach. What you're feeding is your brain. Right? That's who everybody is competing for the sugar for. You know, it is your brain and the microbes. The microbes happen to be a big population of them is in your gut. So when you eat something, right, they get first dibs on it, and then your brain is left for seconds. So if the brain feels that it's not getting sugar, it doesn't care about fat and it doesn't care about protein. If it feels it's not getting sugar, then it's going to make you eat something, and that's not something you can white knuckle your way through for a long time, or do any kind of willpower thing. If your brain feels like you're low on sugar, it will be like you trying to hold your breath. You can do that for a little while, but you'll never be able to commit suicide holding your breath. Right? Your brain will make you breathe. It will also make you go get sugar, right, if it feels like there is a sugar deficit. So keeping down the level of microbes is key, keeping your stomach small. Now, if you start eating sugar again, or you start eating these carbs that make that grow, right, and you had that experience here with your son, it doesn't take much for those microbes to, right? I mean, it's like, pouring some lighter fluid on some what looks like, or just ashy coals, right, but there's some hot ones under there. You pour that lighter fluid on there, and here you got a fire again, right? So, I mean, that's just how quickly this yeast can repopulate. It doesn't take much, right? So, really key for you to not throw these simple carbs back in. That's another distinction that I made for myself, is that I was still eating too many simple carbs. So mostly in these the juices, that even though they didn't have a lot of carbs in them, right, the ones that I was drinking had too many, right? And so again, you put that in, you grow your stomach. So that's that is a key. The other key for me was...
Before we leave that, can you give me again how many grams of sugar?
Single digit. Single
grams?
digit on any drinks.
Sugar?
Single digit of sugar.
Sugar?
Sugar. Yeah.
Single digit sugar.
Yeah. So
okay.
9 or less per serving. And the serving should be like 8 ounces.
Per serving? Yeah, but what if you have more than one serving a day? How many per day?
Per day?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about per day. You don't want to drink a lot of sugar, though. And so like this one has 5 grams per serving. But, so now this is another thing. So that's 5 grams per 4 fluid ounces, right? So you have to look at what they're calling a serving. Who drinks 4 ounces, right? No one. So people drink more like 16 ounces, right? Which that would be 20 of these. So anyway, be very careful of liquid sugar.
And carbs and salt.
Well,